Hello, all you amazing people out there in gardening land. We're in the greenhouse, and we're going to be doing some up potting today. So, first things first, I've got a bucket right here with some potting soil in it. And first thing we're going to do, because we're up potting these, and we're going to be putting them into solo cups, right? Already got holes in the bottom. Gotta have drainage holes, it's important. And first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to add some fertilizer into this potting mix. It has a little bit of slow release fertilizer, but very minimal. So these plants are going to be in these solo cups for roughly the next month and a half before they get planted out. May 2-4 weekend is when the community garden I plant in, my garden plot is available to me. But before I can plant it out, the farmer there has to till the plot. Then I have to make and shape beds, then apply geotextile cloth to keep the weeds down, and install infrastructure, trellis netting, T-posts, all of that sort of stuff. And then after that, I'm going to be able to plant. So it's a 3-day weekend for May 2-4. Whether I get a lot of things in the ground or not, I don't know. A lot of things have to really line up for me to get a lot of things in the ground that weekend. So I need to make sure that the transplants have enough food to last them plus or minus 6 weeks. And now that, I'll pan the camera around in a second. Now that they're actually taken off, some of the plants have their first set of true leaves on them. They are really going to take off quick, which means they're going to need a lot of food because they're just going to start to grow like gangbusters. So the first thing we're going to do, going to take our trusty Gaia Green Veg 444. So it's not high in nutrients, right? But I don't need it super high nutrients. I swear by this stuff, does amazing, right? So let's do this. Move this camera around here. So we've got about half a 5-gallon bucket with potting soil, right? I've already wet it down, so it's not super dry. We're going to take our Gaia Green 444, and we're going to add 3 tablespoons of the 444 in. And like I said, we don't need a lot in there. We just got to make sure that these plants have everything that they need to grow healthy. Then we're just going to take our trowel. So we've got the fertilizer in there. Sorry about the lights, guys. And all we're going to do is we're just going to mix this all in, all the way down to the bottom. So my plan here is, so when you're mixing something like this and wetting it down, it's a lot harder to do with, let's say, a full 5-gallon bucket, right? Because then you generally don't get all the way to the bottom. So I find it easier to just do a half bucket at a time. And as you can see, there, let's get that all in frame. There we go. We are going to have an awful lot of transplanting to do. These little cells here, that's 72 per. We're not going to transplant those leeks, but we are going to do those tomatoes. Those are all onions. We don't have to worry about that, but we have to transplant that. Whatever's coming up in here, and some of the stuff in here. Basil we're doing today, and some of the other stuff. These are tomatoes and peppers. So eventually all of this stuff is going to be up potted into solo cups. So we are going to have hundreds of solo cups in here. I mean, if there's 72 per cell and we have multiple trays in here, we're going to be doing a lot of up potting. So it's just generally easier. I also don't have a tote available to me that I could mix up a large batch. So we just blend the fertilizer up. And we're going to fill these cups up, give or take, about halfway. Okay, there, you can see it there. Doing it about halfway. So today we are doing, or right now currently for this part of the video, we're doing 12 basil transplants. I'll show you those in a second. I'll give you a nice close-up on the basil. Let's get these all filled. That's what's nice about potting mix. It's not going to cake up on you. Now normally I would use something like Pro Mix, like the organic veg Pro Mix soil, but this year I'm switching it right up. We're not going with Pro Mix potting or Pro Mix soil at all. We're going to go straight up with this potting mix, because I'm finding as years go on that Pro Mix, and I've tried multiple different of the Pro Mix blends, and I'm not overly satisfied with it. I know it's good stuff. I know it has mycorrhizal spores in it and fertilizers and that. But you know what? I find it does not drain well. And I find it also cakes up and gets very hard. And like, let's face it here. We're planting seedlings, right? So let's get this out of the way for a second. So we're planting seedlings, and you don't want, see, we got them all knocked out here. We don't want those seedling roots to really have to fight to spread out and grow healthy, right? Because by the time we go to plant these in the garden, essentially what I'm looking for is this whole entire pot of potting mix to be one nice, healthy root mass. And if they have to fight to push through that Pro Mix, then it's slowing down the growth of the plant, right? So here's the basil. Looks pretty good, eh? So we have, switch hands here a little bit. We have Thai basil up front, and then we have Genovese basil in the back. So let's put this here to see if we can get the camera on it on a better angle. I am so out of room, guys, in here. It's unreal. All right, there. How's that? Good? Okay, so when I planted these basil, I did not expect to get such fantastic germination rates. So I put a bunch of seeds in each little cell here. And the end result is that I have a whole lot of basil in each cell. Now, I'm going to transplant them with all of those basils in each cell into a cup, and I will thin them after. The reason is because I don't really want to get in here right now and mess with this until they've been transplanted, because they're going to go through transplant shock. And the last thing I really want to do is preemptively stress these plants. Okay? So when you're transplanting, let's change angles here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. When you're transplanting, a couple of things need to happen, right? You need to, one, make sure you have at least the first set of true leaves on your plant. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So here, these are peppers. Okay. These two little leaves here are the first set of true leaves. Okay. These two leaves here, those are the cotyledons. Those are the first two that sprout when it comes out of the ground. So eventually these are just going to die off anyway, so they don't mean nothing. So when you're transplanting, you need to make sure you at least have a set of established set of first true leaves. I'm not even thinking about transplanting these peppers yet. Spin this around here. And here's our tomatoes. Okay? Some of them are tangled. I know they're leggy, but the stems are thickening up now that we got these closer to the light. So with tomatoes, right, you're going to want to plant them deeper anyways. And here's a perfect example. You see all that fur? right there on that stem, you can bury this thing as deep as you want to, because all this little fur right there, those will literally turn into roots on the plant when you bury it in soil. So when I go to bury these, I'm not going to bury it right there at soil level. I'm going to bury it probably 2/3 up this stem up here. And then that's going to, yes, the plants will be shorter, but I'm not worried about them being shorter. What that's going to do is that's going to allow all those roots right there to just take off and strengthen the growth of that plant. Okay, so let's put this back. So whenever you're either transplanting your tomatoes, or you're uppotting them, or you're putting them in the ground, bury them. I bury like I said, here's our solo cup. What's that, 5 inches maybe? We're not going to fill it all the way up with soil with the tomatoes, so let's call it 4 inches of soil, right? When I bury those tomato plants in the garden, I'm going to bury them up to about here, at least on the stem. I'm going to try and put 8 to 10 inches of those tomato plants underground. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow that whole structure that I bury to turn into one great big solid root mass, which is going to drastically affect, in a positive fashion, the health of those plants, right? They're already deep enough that they can start drawing on water, and it'll support the plants more, as opposed to just 4 inches of roots buried in the ground. We're going to plant 8 to 10. We'll have way healthier plants. Some people say to bury your tomatoes on an angle and grow them up, like bury them in a trench and just poke the top up. I can't do that with the way I plant, but at least I know I can bury them deep. Another thing you're looking for when you're going to transplant is you need to have a solid, nice, healthy root mass inside your little cells here, okay? So what you want to do is give them a little push from the bottom, jiggle them up. There. Be gentle. See all those nice healthy roots on there? Right? You can see how it's maintaining shape. We're not losing material, right? It's not falling apart. When you're transplanting, don't rush this process, because if you don't have a nice healthy root mass and you try to transplant them, one of two things is going to happen. Well, 3. 1, you're just going to kill it outright. 2, you're going to stress it so bad, right? Because most of the soil is going to fall off and you're going to bare root it. And it could take weeks for that plant to come out of transplant shock and then actively start regrowing those roots again. Or 3, right? It's just going to be so damaged and stunted that it's not going to continue to grow, and you're going to end up with these weak-ass little plants that just never grow healthy again. So, okay, you see all the roots? So don't rush this process. I know some of you guys are going to want to push ahead, but don't, okay? Just this time right now is critical. So we're just going to, I'm going to have to work around the camera. So all we're going to do is we're just going to put them into the pots. Where's my soil? This is the part where I make a big mess. So we're just going to put them in. I don't even have room here. We're just going to put them in and bury around it. No, maybe not. Maybe we're going to do it this way. It's hard to work around a tripod, especially in here with no room. So also with certain plants, when you transplant them, you can't plant them deeper than the plant is at the top of the soil. Like tomatoes, absolutely, right? Things like basil, don't plant it above the top of the soil, okay? You'll rot the plant because the plant fiber on the outside of the plant stems just will not take Oh, sorry, that's not even in frame, guys. I apologize. Let's change that. There we go. See? So, right here at the top of the soil level is where the top of that root plug was. And I always leave a little bit of room to water. And there's one of our Genovese basil. So I'm just going to knock the rest of these plants out, and I'll show you what they all look like when we're done. So they're all done. Got them all planted up. Got them all labeled. And they're just gonna grow with the ladies for a few days until I up pot some more and make some space. Now we're just gonna give everything a good water. That's gonna help with the transplant shock. And like I said, I've already moistened down this potting mix, so it doesn't have to be soaking wet, but you want it to sort of settle in. You want the soil to kind of filter around that root ball. And these should just take right off. This lonely little plant right here, only one little seed grew, and it got totally overshadowed by the rest of the plants. So it's a little tiny, but now that it's got its own space and its own access to light, she'll take off too. And this is what's nice about potting mix, right? Because it's such a fine material, it's all just peat and perlite. This stuff is just going to drain through real fast. It's not going to stay moist. And we're going to give the ladies a drink while we're here. What do you say? And in case you're wondering, yes, I am still using the water with the mosquito pucks in it. Behind the camera, I have a tote with the pucks in it, and they're sort of breaking down now pretty well into the water. And all I do is I just get a bucket. Oh, that one's going to need some water in a sec. So, and I'm just continuously watering with the mosquito dunk water. And as you guys can see, you've been watching this for a while, there's almost no fungus gnats in here. I mean, almost none by comparable what it used to be. But we do still have yellow sticky traps all over the place. So that's catching the adults, and the BT that's in the mosquito dunks is wiping out the larvae. So, all right, guys. Well, that's it for planting some basil. And thanks for watching. Have a great day. Make sure you got all your stuff in order, because everybody's going to need lots of food this year. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Smash that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment if you want. Share this video out. And let's reach as many people as we can, all right? Have a great day, guys. Grow good food. See ya.